Good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos. It's Shabbos time. Today is March 21st. It is also Adar 21, the 21st of the month of Adar, which means we are in a waning gibbous cycle of the moon. It's about 55% right now of a full moon, so just about a half moon, moving into the last week of the month. Today, the Willamette River is flowing at 51,000 cubic feet per second, 59,000 cubic feet per second. Just a few days ago on March 17th, it was at 69,000. 59,000 is on the very high side for this day historically. The high was in 1932 at 167,000 cubic feet per second. And the low is in 2005 at 7,850. The 75th percentile is 36,500. So at 59,000, we are on the high side of our beautiful river. Um, in the sky tonight, though we won't probably be able to see it with the clouds. Um, there hiding behind the clouds is Mars and Jupiter, along with the moon. You can still see them very clearly on clear enough nights. And also out in the sky tonight, the constellations Orion, Scorpius, Ursa Major, or the Big Dipper, um, and Gemini. And just for fun, wanted to mention something about where Ursa Major shows up. The constellations show up in much of Jewish writing, and in Jewish writing there are 12 constellations corresponding to the 12 tribes. So, for example, we read a verse in Barachot in the Talmud that says, "Who makes Ursa Major, Orion, the Pleiades, and the Gemara?" um, and who makes the and Gemini rather. Um, and that verse is from Job 38 and also Job 9. So in the Tanakh, these constellations are mentioned. This particular time with the constellation in the sky with Gemini is connected to Peretz and Zerach, who are two sons of Judah, and they were called twins. Um, as it says in Genesis, there were twins in her womb. So Peretz and Zerach were the two twins, and Gemini means twins. So this month is associated with them. This week's parasha is called Vayakhel, Vayakhel, at the end of the book of Exodus. It's the second to it's coming up on the end of the book of Exodus. And the verses that I'm focusing on today have to do with Shabbat, and specifically we're going to talk about lighting the candles on Shabbat. So the verses here says Sheshet Yamim Te'aseh melacha uvayom hashevi'i yiyeh lechem kodesh Shabbat Shabbaton la'Adonai. Kol ha'oseh vo melacha yumat. On 6 days work may be done, but on the seventh day you shall have a Shabbat of complete rest, Shabbat Shabbaton, holy to Hashem. Whoever does any work therein shall be put to death. And the next verse is Lo tiva'aru esh bechol moshvotechem beyom hashabbat. You shall kindle no fire throughout your habitations on Shabbos day. On Shabbos day. So the question always arises, what is work on Shabbat? What is work? What is labor? The word in Hebrew is melacha, and it is not in the tradition, it's not subjective. There are specific labors that are prohibited, and these are 39, Lamed Tet, 39 different kinds of labors that were involved with the creation and the erection of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle, the ancient portable sanctuary of the Israelites. So that was the kind of labor that was prohibited. And in most of the commentaries, they ask, why was fire specifically mentioned here? It's just one of the labors. It's specifically, they say it was a labor associated with making dyes um, for the Mishkan, for dyeing the various fabrics, blue and red um, and purple. So the question is, why was fire singled out here from all the 39 labors? And the explanation they say, or what they say, is that all 39 labors are forbidden. Fire was necessary to point out because, as Rabbi Natan explains, the Torah was using one melacha, one kind of work, to serve as an example, to teach us that while all 39 melachot are derived from this verse, nevertheless, each and every melacha is an independent prohibition. So so fire is not the sum of what melacha is. It means it's one kind of melacha. So it's not, this is a particular kind of labor. And so that's often misunderstood when people are thinking about working on Shabbat. It has to do with 39 very specific kinds of labor. So the Pnine Halacha, the contemporary um, halachic writer in Israel, he kind of sums up what many of the classical traditional texts say, that says one who lights a fire of any size that meets some need violates Torah prohibition. It makes no difference whether you start the fire by rubbing stones together or use a magnifying glass to focus the sun's rays on straw, whether you light a match or by turning on electricity. It also does not matter if the fire is fueled by oil, kerosene, or electricity. Any time one intends to start a fire and succeeds in doing so, you transgress a Torah prohibition. And similarly, there are prohibition against kindling a fire from a pre-existing flame, and also like things like not even stoking coals in the fire, or like tipping a lamp so that it will burn more efficiently. Which brings up the practice of why we do the Shabbat candles, why we light the Shabbat candles in the way that we do. So lighting the Shabbat candles falls under the category of work that you can do on Friday that you can then leave over through Shabbat. So this is why we light the candles before Shabbat, because lighting on Shabbat is forbidden, but you want to have light on Shabbat. So again, the Penine Halacha points out that actually it's a rabbinic mitzvah to light the candles in honor of Shabbat. It's not in the Torah. That's a rabbinic enactment, or in other words, you might say it's a traditional enactment. There are three reasons given for lighting Shabbat candles. One is to honor Shabbat, as a banquet without light is of no significance, he writes, meaning like it's a lot funner to be able to see the food that you're eating and see the people that you're eating with. It is for oneg Shabbat, to delight in Shabbat, because one who cannot see their food does not enjoy it. And three, to bring shalom bait, peace of the home, um, into the home, because one who cannot see their furniture and begins and belongings and trips over them, and ends up getting angry and irritable. So it is so important, says the Penine Halacha, to have light at the Shabbat table, that the sages stated that one who does not have enough money to buy a candle should go door to door begging for charity in order to buy it. Continues, the Shabbat candles give profound expression to the essence of Shabbat. One mired in darkness cannot find what they're looking for. You stumble over your furniture. Your whole home seems chaotic to you. But the moment you light the Shabbat candles, peace comes to your home. You understand that your furniture is there to serve you, and your belongings are all where they belong. Thus, you are able to enjoy Shabbat at your festive meal. Similarly, when we look at the world superficially, it seems full of strife and war. hopelessly divided and conflicted. Each side thinks only when it succeeds in getting rid of the opposition will it be able to rest, and thus the conflicts endlessly continue. But if one thinks a little more deeply and examines divine providence, the darkness disappears and the divine light is revealed. You realize that the opposing sides actually complement one another, and there is a hand directing and leading the world toward perfection. Out of all the troubles and afflictions, redemption and comfort will emerge. So, the primary thing you're lighting Shabbat candles for is so that you can see. That's the first thing. So, these customs were invented when there was not electricity. So if you did not light candles in preparation for Shabbat, if you did not light a lamp for Shabbat, you would have no light on Shabbat. So that's what lighting the candles were. They had a very practical and utilitarian purpose. And without them, you would not be able to enjoy Shabbat. You wouldn't be able to bring the joy of Shabbat in. What it means now for those of us, for all of us who have electricity, is something quite different from what it used to be. The sages state in God's name, the glory of Shabbat is its candles. If one observes the mitzvah of Shabbat candles, I will show you the candles of Zion, of Zion. It will not be necessary for you to use the light of the sun to see. Rather, I will provide illumination for you with my glory. In the future, the nations will walk by your light. Why do you deserve all of this? Asks God. Because of the candles you light for Shabbat, which is from a rabbinic work called the Yalkut Shimoni. So you will note that the tradition is about lighting Shabbat candles at home. At home. The institution of lighting Shabbat candles in the synagogue is something else. But the tradition, the way it is spoken about, and the whole tradition is about lighting Shabbat candles in the home as part of the Shabbat observance. And this is partly because in the tradition, Friday night is a very special time. Friday night is a very special time where you are with family and friends in your home celebrating Shabbat. So, especially Friday night is a very home-oriented practice. Because lighting fires on Shabbat is forbidden, the practice of many communities, it's not universal, but there's kind of a standard amongst many communities that actually light the candles 18 minutes before sunset, 18 minutes before sunset. So it changes throughout the year, which is another beautiful thing because when you're tied into Shabbos time, you're tied into astronomical time. You're tied in with how the days become shorter and longer. You are tied in with the sunset, sunrise and the sunset. So you would light it 18 minutes before Shabbat because you're trying to create a barrier between you and when lighting candles is absolutely forbidden. So 18 minutes is a protective space, but why 18? I don't know, but 18 is the number Chai, as we all know. It's the number Yud Chet, which in Hebrew, if you write it out the other way, write it backwards, Chai means life. So there's something about participating in life and in encouraging life when you are practicing this custom of lighting the Shabbat candles 18 minutes before sunset. And then the candles, or in their day, it would have been oil lamps, would have been set up in such a way on the table so that light was given throughout all of Shabbos. Presumably, maybe other lights were lit too around the house to guide people that evening, but the important ones were the ones put on the Shabbos table and lit there. And those were not moved, or even they could be touched, but not moved at all on Shabbat. They were left there to burn all the way out. There is a precaution, by the way, where if you're afraid of bandits or you're afraid of fire, um, there is some thought that you can put the candles out of fear for being seen or for a fire starting. However, um, the ideal situation is that you put the right amount of oil in there so that they burn all the way down and burn out, and you don't have to extinguish them because extinguishing fire is also forbidden on Shabbat. When people do this practice, they light the candles and then cover their eyes to say the Shabbat blessings. And the reason that they do that is a sort of physical enactment of this transition into Shabbat. So on a really practical level, people light the candles first, then cover their eyes while saying the blessing, so that when they open it, they're just enjoying the light that came about as work that was done in a time where it was permitted. But once you make the blessing, you have ushered in Shabbat. Now it is Shabbat, and you can remove the covers from your eyes and look at and enjoy the beauty of the light being given off by the lamps or by the candles. All of this is why the Ritual Practices Committee has had several conversations about lighting candles on Shabbat at TBS, when for much of the year we are actually lighting the candles way after sundown, well after sundown. Technically, you can light candles all the way up until astronomical sunset. However, practice is to light at 18 minutes or, before sunset at some point. And that is also about lengthening the lengthening Shabbat out of love for Shabbat. When people speak about their relationship to Hilchot Shabbat, the Jewish way when it comes to observing Shabbat, there is a sort of misunderstanding or misconnection with regard to why we do these things. We do these things out of a love for Shabbat. As one person once said, um, more than the Jews have kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jews. It is the heart, it is the beating heart of Judaism, and is a reminder of what we're working towards in the world, of a world filled with light and love and justice and peace. Um, that's what Shabbat symbolizes. In fact, in the prayers of Shabbat, we say we're praying for a day that will be all Shabbat all the time, a time when the world will be redeemed, and we can always have this kind of sense of blessing and closeness, of things being complete. So this is part of what it is. It's about the love of Shabbat and devotion to Shabbat. And of course, devotion to the creator of Shabbat, the God who rested on the seventh day. And so many of our holidays and observances, Yom Kippur, Shabbat, um, Sukkot, these holidays, let alone biblical ordinances like the Shemitah year, where the land is left fallow and you release people from debt and let people go free. If you have people working for you in indentured servitude, you set them free. And the Yovel year, which involves letting the land lie fallow for 2.5 years and returning all land holdings to their original owners. These holidays are actually rooted in emunah and bitachon. Emunah is faith, bitachon is trust. So a lot of what happens on Shabbat is a disengagement from our busyness, from the acts of work, of labor that we do throughout the week, and setting aside this day, making it holy, um, by making it very, very different, pronouncedly different from other days of the week. And we put our trust, and we get to feel a sense of trust that we are provided for on the day, that we're cared for on that day, that everything is finished, everything is complete. So that takes emunah. That takes emunah as well. That means leaning into Shabbat. That means leaning on it. Um, embracing it the way it was meant to be enjoyed and meant to be observed. The trust comes from, you can't light your fire, so you may not be able to heat food up the way you want it to. You can't turn lights on and off. So you might not be able to see or have the same level of light pollution in your life. You don't buy and sell things. You don't use electronics. So you don't reach out to the outside world. Um, to the world beyond your community, and you're very locale, you're locale. And that all takes, especially for, I think, for modern people, takes a sense of an act of faith and an act of bitachon, an act of trust. And the amazing thing is that we all have these experience of when you lean into something and you're caught there, that experience of bitachon. You go in with some anxiety, like I'm disconnecting, I won't be able to do things the way I normally do them. You go in with some anxiety about the experience of Shabbat, and then when you're there, suddenly you realize it's like all your preconceptions and fears about it dissipate, and you're left in the feeling of bitachon and emunah. So before Friday, emunah and bitachon are something that you lean into, you practice. But on Shabbat, you get to experience emunah and bitachon and trust. So good Shabbos to everyone. Many, many blessings for a beautiful Shabbat, a beautiful, restful Shabbat. And we will we'll be moving out of the book of Exodus soon into the book of Vayikra, which is um, full of laws. It'll be a whole different vibe to go into the book of Vayikra. So wishing you all a blessings for Shabbat, and hope may we all feel a sense of emunah and bitachon on this Shabbat.